Dave,
John,
Shane,
Chad,
these Sci-Fi Guys.
Welcome to these Sci-Fi Guys. I am Dave, and with me is Chad, John,
What up?
and Shane.
hey everybody.
Well, this week we actually watched the movie. Where is it? I'm on the wrong slide. There it is. The League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. Sean
Yep.
Connery in this with a whole bunch of no names.
Fair.
I mean, it is what it is, right? You know.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, anyway, yeah, this was I'm sure we're gonna have a lot to discuss on this movie, just because we have Sean Connery. I can't do a good accent of him, but it seems like every movie that the last few movies he was in, somebody always made fun of the way he talked. You know, it wasn't.
It's fair.
I mean, from The Hunt to Red October to this one to The Rock to, there was just others. Heck, I think even Highlander, they even made a little joke with the way he talked, and anyway, so, well, let's go ahead and go behind the scenes. Okay, here's a quick plot summary. In an alternate Victorian age world at the dawn of the 20th century, the I can't even say this warmonger known as the Phantom threatens to unleash a bloody Armageddon of global proportions. Before this extreme and unstoppable menace, the experienced adventurer Quarterman assembles a unique team of superheroes torn straight from the pages of English literature in high hopes of thwarting the madman's plan for world domination. Can the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen save our world? And that was better than the entire movie. No. I'm kidding. I mean, I didn't spend all this money, that they did. But let's go ahead. Talk about it. All right. So there was all kinds of production turmoil. Filming began in Prague during the summer of 2002. However, catastrophic floods, the worst in a century, devastated the city, destroying approximately $7 million worth of sets, including Captain Nemo's submarine.
Wow.
The cast and crew were forced to evacuate and relocate to Malta, causing significant delays and budget overruns. We've got the director here. The director-actor conflicts. Tensions between Stephen Norrington and Sean Connery were palatable. Disagreements over creative decisions led to frequent arguments, with reports of shouting matches on the set. In one instance, Norrington allegedly challenged Connery to a physical confrontation. They were like, dukes. Man up, man. Yeah. Norrington's meticulous approach, such as delaying production over a prop gun's appearance, further strained their relationship. This movie was both of their last movies. Sean Connery went into retirement basically after all the issues that this movie had. He did do a few voice acting after this, but this was the last movie he actually acted in. He cited this was a nightmare. He said the production was a nightmare, and just he's like, nope, no more. And same with Stephen Norrington's. he stepped away from directing after this. Disillusioned by the experience, he announced that he would not direct another film, and as of this point, he has not returned to the chair. So there was a lot of creative differences. I'm sorry, creative decisions and effects. Casting choices. Sean Connery, 007, The Rock. All these other movies that he's been in. He had a $17 million salary.
Ooh.
Just him. Which consumed a significant portion of the budget, including the ability to cast any other high-profile actors. To appeal to the American audiences, the studio insisted on adding the character of Tom Sawyer, a decision initially criticized, but later was seen as beneficial. Here you go. You'll like this. Special effects. Despite the film's challenges, some practical effects were noteworthy. Jason Fleming's transformation into Mr. Hyde involved a 45-pound suit that he had to wear. It had animatronic, I cannot say that word, animatronic components in it, kind of like a Disney World. But it took 7 hours for him to put it on.
Wow.
However, when they made it, they didn't think that he would be in the suit that long, and so they didn't put some practicalities in there, like how to use the bathroom. They didn't do that. So one thing that the movie was lauded for was their work of miniatures. The Venice destruction sequence utilized, it was a 1/5 scale of miniatures, and the practical effects really were pretty darn good, I thought. The CGI, not so much, but the practical effects were. Okay. You guys are going to kick out of this. Sean Connery was offered the role of Gandalf in Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings trilogy. He declined it and said, "No, I don't understand this movie. I've read the book. I don't get it." He was going to be getting he was offered $30 million per film.
Wow.
And a percentage of the box office profits. He turned it down because it didn't resonate with him. He instead did this movie.
How much money you bet he did it? Who would have done that movie?
Probably, but I don't know.
I'm glad he didn't. I'm
glad he didn't, because I love the guy that plays Gandalf.
Yes.
Yep.
So, okay, Rotten Tomatoes, a 16%. Popcorn meter was 44%. Okay, we're finally out of the 90s. Those last couple ones have been really up there, and Rotten Tomatoes did not like this movie whatsoever. So the budget was $78 million. Did it make money? Start with John.
No. I got a good streak now. I don't want to break it, but I still think no.
Shane.
I'm going to say no, even though it seems like just from, I don't know. No, I'm going to say no. I'm going to stay with my gut.
Chad.
No, it might not even broke even.
Okay. Here we go. It grossed $66 million domestically. So no, it didn't make money in the United States. However, it made $112 million internationally, with a total of $179 million. So it made $100 million. So it did make money. So you're going to have to start a new streak.
Wow.
I got to figure out what it's going to be now.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, the thing is, you got to think, it's just very known. It's got all the international fiction book people in it. So that's probably what.
Yeah, I mean, they're all the literary characters. Jekyll and Hyde. You had Count Dracula, even though it wasn't Dracula.
It was Mina.
Yeah. And then it had Captain Nemo, and M. What I understand was Moriarty.
Yeah.
He was the villain from in the what is it? Golly, I cannot think of his name. Data played him. Sherlock Holmes.
Sherlock.
Holmes. He was the enemy of Sherlock Holmes. So yeah. So I mean, they had good characters.
Mhm.
They really did have some good characters. And I'm sure we'll get into a little bit more of all that. So let's go ahead and answer some questions. All right, Chad, you have the floor.
Even though you stole one of my questions on your,
Well, sorry.
yeah, always going to happen. But I'm going to go with that question because this is you said it. But
Yeah, go ahead.
which American character was added to the 2003 film but does not appear in the original comic series, and why?
So,
So Dave's,
so
We
yes,
know who it is.
yeah,
It was Tom Sawyer,
Oh, yeah.
of course.
Yes.
And wasn't it to just provide something for the American
Yeah,
audience?
it was to get the American people involved with it because they're all these famous literary characters. None of them are from America.
Mhm.
You
That's
know,
true.
and so they wanted to. I mean, honestly, Tom Sawyer really was the biggest character, even though he was at this point. Obviously, this was an alternate universe type
Mhm.
deal. That's what it said in behind the scenes. But you know, Tom Sawyer was. This was. I'm not a history major, but he never went around and fought all kinds of bad guys and stuff.
No, he was a misadventurous youth that
Mhm.
I'm gonna go down the Mississippi and go do this, and
Mm.
that character was not in line with what the writer wrote Tom Sawyer to be.
Right.
So, only
Well, and this was only based on the movie too,
yeah,
because the original comics
didn't
he's not
have
in
it.
it at all.
Yeah.
You know, they just figured, hey, we need and obviously look at your box office numbers.
Yeah.
You know, you probably if they would have taken the character out, it
It made
made
it
it better over
better.
internationally. I
Sure.
don't know.
Maybe so.
The thing is, we all know who Nemo, all these characters is from. So why do they think they had to put an American book person in there just to appease us?
I
Honestly,
don't know. I
Yes.
guess to give the hook.
Yeah.
yeah,
So-
I really think that was it. Is they wanted something. They didn't want to leave anybody out. I mean, look at the movies that we have nowadays. You notice that most of your movies nowadays paint China in a very positive light. You know, because of just the mass number of people that are over there, and they know they're going to go to movies and they're going to want to watch it. So,
Mhm.
you know, if you were to make a people group a negative person or you have a negative connotation about them, those people are not going to want to go see your movie.
Yeah.
You know, so
That's fair.
So
and I think
Would-
the director wasn't the director an American too?
a little bit.
I don't
I
remember.
don't know.
So both in the film and comic series, who was the leader of the league in both of them?
Quarterman.
Partially.
Partially.
John's watched the movie. Not everyone. The questions are a little bit deeper this week, for sure. You gotta have to do a little digging. I had to do a little digging because I did not know this was a comic. I
I didn't
honestly
either.
did not know this was a
Not
comic
either.
until Chad
Yeah.
sent the questions. I was like, oh, okay. And then actually, Mina is
Mhm.
was the leader in the
Mhm.
comic.
Parker.
That's
Mm.
interesting.
Quarterman was the leader in the movie because they paid him $17 million.
Because
So-
he's Sean Connery.
Exactly. There, you got a better voice than I did. You could do
I
that,
don't know about
you know.
that.
Nah.
It sounded better than mine.
I
But
didn't
yeah,
know.
that's all I ever. That's the only thing I saw on there is that Quarterman was not the leader in any of the comics or any of the stuff I read. It was all Mina, and Mina is actually
Van Helsing.
the fourth generation. Hold on. Yeah, it was okay. The first generation of the League, and they didn't call it the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. They just called it the League. Prospero's men. Okay. Then this was like way before the 19th century. All right. The second league was formed by Gulliver, not Gulliver's Travel, but Limu Gulliver in the 1750s.
Oh.
Then the mid 19th century, there was one that was done by Dorian Gray was in that one.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And then the first Murray group is what they called it because her name was Mina Murray.
Murray.
Movie they called her something different.
Mina Parker.
Yeah, Parker. That's it. So she did the first group, and then she also was in charge of the second group with Quarterman's son. So in the movie,
Okay.
he took him off, but in the comic, he was in the second Murray group. So
Gotcha.
there was a couple of third Murray group, and then a 1958 MI5 league, and then there's a Time Travelers League. I mean, it just kind of
It goes on.
it goes on and on and on and on.
So since you said MI5, let's go into this one. So who created the original league in the Victorian era in the comic canon?
No idea.
Bond.
Oh, okay.
Who?
Quarterman Bond, I think it was.
Oh, okay.
Very loosely of something. I had to exclude that. I'm a very Bond guy.
Oh,
James
cool.
Bond. So so that's a quick little thing. There's nothing unless Dave's got something I want to add to that.
No.
So how does this film use steampunk technology and design to enhance its narrative? And what commentary does it offer on the relationship between science and morality?
See, this is where I love to thrive. I love a good steampunk. And I do think that's definitely one of the highlights of the film for me is the use of steampunk tech. You have this massive ship, the Nautilus, of course, with all these crazy things coming in and out of it, but at the same time it's a boat, at the same time it's a sub. And generally I think it's interesting that it steampunk as a whole, as a genre, I just love the fact that it combines tech with older style things. I think that makes it just interesting as a whole, and it often results in much prettier science fiction, I would say, at least more artistic in terms of like we add swirls and stuff to our tech. And I think having a lot of that in this film truly drives it along because that's where a lot of your action and stuff comes in is from these fancy tools, the fancy vehicles. And I think it just really gives us some fun as well, just kind of behind the story it's trying to drive. And then overall, I think in terms of science and morality, I think just, again, always that idea of what are the tools we creating? What are we using them for? Is certainly always a question to be asked. And at what point are we creating just to destroy? And is that actually creating in a sense? I think is where that would take me. But that's my take on the steampunk and the morality v science idea.
Yeah, see, to me, where I remember seeing the first time seeing this movie, I loved Captain Nemo. Nemo was my favorite character, and I just loved the way I really liked the play on the Nautilus because I grew up on Disney's 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. That's how I grew up on. That was it. That was the Nautilus is what you went on to Disney World and you rode the little ride and then you went under the water and then you came, I mean, that's what I saw. And then there was late 70s, there was another TV show where Captain Nemo basically came back from the past or something. I don't know. It was really goofy. But it was along the same line, I loved Captain Nemo. Just I really liked how he was a pirate, first of all, rather than just being okay, well, I'm Captain Nemo and here's the Nautilus and the Nautilus can do this, and how they interacted with the steampunk stuff. It could have been just like a regular radar. Oh, hey, the guy took my ship, let's just follow the radar. But that was cool how they had to actually fix it where the globe was actually having to roll, and then it had the lines that were actually finding out where they were compared to the other one. And they weren't just like a straight line. They, like John was saying earlier, just some of the creative choices that they used for just for the design. And of course the car was I'm a car guy, so I like the car, although at first I was like, well, wait a minute, it didn't look like a convertible at first, and then it's a convertible, and then but yeah, I did like those. And when it comes to the morality, Nemo didn't say he was a pirate, but didn't say he wasn't either. So he obviously uses his tech for personal gain or his crew's gain or whatever. Moriarty, on the other hand, just wanted to use them as a mass, as weapons of mass destruction.
Agreed.
They already had those tanks that were, going all over the place and no one could do anything about. And we'll get more on that later. But I think that that it depends on your point of view. I thought it was kind of neat how Quarterman started in Africa, but then ended up having to go to Britain, and Britain's where all this issues, came about. So, Shane, you got anything?
Yeah. So just to kind of chime in on what y'all were saying. It's not a lot to really add, but I did love there was an exchange in there between Nemo and Alan Quartermain where Quartermain said I may have
misjudged.
Yes, I may have misjudged too harshly when I called you a pirate. And Nemo said I may have been too I don't know. I can't think of exactly what it was, but I may have been too easy when I said I was not. So like Dave said, he never said he wasn't, but he never said he was too. So it was some of that. I do think, especially when you're talking about the ship and the car, the use of the steampunk techniques, I think it was very aesthetically pleasing, really just cool looking. Everything about all of his tech was very useful, but also very pleasing to the eye, very aesthetic. And as far as the use of technology versus morality, I think it all goes back to, are you creating something just to create it and not thinking about what the long-term aspects could be? I think if you put it into a real world scenario, you think about the Manhattan Project with the development of an atomic bomb. It was a scientific breakthrough, knowing what it could kind of do. But then once they saw it, they realized, oh my gosh, we have created something that could possibly destroy the world. So are you creating something just to do it, just to have a breakthrough, or are you really thinking long term when you're thinking about the morality part?
I think also it kind of goes back to what we talked about last week with Iron Man.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's got to be what's in your heart, what's behind it. When Tony Stark, realized, hey, my weapons are not being used properly.
Mm-hmm.
They were supposed to be used for America. They were supposed to be used for this. They were supposed to be used for defense and all that. And then they find out that they're in a third world and they're killing people with them for no reason, and then he had an issue with that. So I really think that's what a lot of this stuff comes down to.
Yeah. So, last question here, and it might be a doozy for y'all. So, Professor Moriarty we all know he was the antagonist of this movie, and is portrayed as a mastermind seeking to destabilize the world through advanced technology. How does his character serve as a foil to the League, and what does his plan reveal about the nature of power and control in the context of global conflict? Shay's like he got a good answer going for it.
No, I'm trying to process the question.
Yeah, because it's kind of a really large, broad question. Okay, well, let me first ask this. The question is, why did Moriarty even make the League in the first place? If his goal was world domination and world destruction, it did that part. I guess you could say that's plot hole.
Yeah,
I understand he was driven by power and being able to, what's the word? Being a chess master, being able to see 5 steps ahead and be able to move the pieces how he wants to, so he can finally ultimately say checkmate. He had unchecked ambition. And I'm trying to go back and remember. I'm looking over here at your question again, so I can.
Well, yeah. He did say he created the League to get the Meaner's blood. Alaman's like he was just trying to get all the big people like that all together to get their power.
He was trying to get their superpowers.
Yeah,
So
he created it just to give him you got to stop me here. Didn't tell me it was him, but it was hey. But then, to me, is the League actually? And I get into it later. But this is a complex question.
Here, I have this thing. Moriarty's desire to control the world through technology mirrors the ambition of state actors in a global conflict, exposing the dangers of unchecked technological advancement.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that kind of boils it all down to, if you have unchecked, I mean, I was a part of the Cold War when I was in the military, and yeah, it sucked. I mean, there was times where we had to do different practices and all kinds of stuff that we had to learn about, but it wasn't that America was unchecked, because the Soviet Union at the time, it was the Soviet Union. It's not Russia now, but at the time, the Soviet Union had just as many as we did. So, when it came to nuclear weapons, or when it came to whatever, same with technology. Heck, the F-15. Everyone's like, oh, it's the most wonderful aircraft. It's the greatest. The plans were stolen from Russia. All right. They are the ones that really introduced that type of aircraft way before America ever did. So there was a balance there between the superpowers, and then if you get to the point where one superpower just dominates over everybody, that's when you run into all your issues. And that's what Moriarty was trying to do. He wanted to be that superpower without any complications from anyone else. Does that sound roughly?
Yeah, I would say so.
Yeah. All right. What are we doing? What are we doing? Was that your last question, Chad?
Last question.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, then I'm not sure we really need. Do y'all really want to look at plot holes? Because I mean, there's like billions of them.
So
So I mean, I mean, like the Invisible Man. Hey, one time he eats food and you can see it going down. Why would you see it going down? That
Fair.
doesn't make any sense.
Fair.
Or drinking drinking the water or something. Oh, I can see it.
Mhm.
I mean, and he would have froze to death because he has to be naked
Yeah.
when he was out in the snow. Okay, there's our plot holes. We're done with that.
Yeah.
Let's go ahead and rate this thing. All right. We are in this part. We are going to rate this on a scale of 0 to 5 lightsabers. And yes, you can use halves if you need to. So, Chad, why don't you start since you picked out this movie?
Yeah, I'll start this. I get it right off. Let's hit it. So with it being what it is with the steampunk and especially what it introduced, I can't go lower than a 2.5. I'm sorry. That's just I will watch it again just because of what it is. So 2.5 for me on this movie.
Okay. All right. Shane.
Oh goodness. I think the movie in concept made sense, but I think the execution was extremely poor. I think that the there was just a lot. As y'all said, there was a lot of plot holes. A lot of things did not connect that really needed to connect. I'll say this even. The music itself was very lackluster. I felt like also. Just the entire thing. As I've said before, it had potential, especially with the characters. But
Potential. Yeah.
right. But when you pay Sean Connery such a huge portion of the budget, obviously you can't get a lot of higher tier support. So I think that makes a difference as well. So I'm not going to be very generous with this one. I'm going with a 1.5 on this one.
All right, John.
So I think this film has a very interesting concept. I do like a lot, obviously, of the steampunk stuff. I like a lot of the action it gives, just because you get a lot of fun, silly kind of action scenes that I think are just real fun, real robust isn't the right word, but you just get a lot of fun action, and I'm definitely okay with that. As a whole, though, the concept did kind of fall flat, and a lot of the, I guess, normal things we know as cinema, including the CGI, kind of fell flat for me. And so for me, that kind of puts it down to the 2.
And then there was me.
Always you, Dave.
Always me. Well, I mean, I'll be honest. I hated this movie. I mean, I was like, I remember watching it before and I was like, I remembered bits and pieces of it. I remembered Captain Nemo and I remembered the elixir. Oh, don't take the elixir. That's all I remembered about
all of it.
Yeah, not that much of it. And that was all I wanted to remember about this movie, I guess. I mean, I really the story should not have been about the Sean Connery's Quarterman. It should have been about Nemo, or he should have been like the title character, and then everything else, because he's the one that did the most stuff, really. I mean, if it wasn't for his equipment, not much of it else would have happened. I don't know. I had a lot of like Shane was saying, this could have been such a good movie.
Mm-hmm.
I've flip-flopped and I look back at some of my other stuff that I drew. I'm like, was it as bad as Time Bandits? No, it was not. Was it as bad as The Core? Probably not. Was it as bad as Doom? Oh, I don't know. I'm pretty close on that. How about Soldier? Yeah, you know what? It's probably on par with Soldier. For me, anyway, just because of the way it flowed. I'm going to go ahead. And again, if you're going to call something the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, why are you having a female in there? I understand it was from the comics, and I understand the original comics, but that's just made no sense to me for the longest time. I'm going to rate this a 1. It was here.
Yeah.
Let's just fix it. And if you want, hey, since I'm already talking, I'll show you, tell you how I would fix it. First of all, again, Nemo should the two of the biggest characters that you grew up knowing about were Captain Nemo and Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde. They needed to have bigger roles in this movie by far. If you wanted to make Quarterman kind of the leader or
Sorry.
aspect, he needs to have some other kind of superpower. He really didn't. I mean, I don't know what his power was other than the
He
witch
can't
doctor
die.
said you're always whatever, you know. Well, no, that's what the other guy did. I mean, he couldn't die until he saw his picture in their frame, you know.
Well, the rich started promised that he wouldn't, no Quarterman would die as long as he was in Africa.
Right. As long as he was in, and he wasn't in Africa. So, but yeah. And you know, anyway, again, and the ending, that ending was so, I mean, if you're going to make him come back to life, then make him come back to life. You know, don't leave it the way you did. Like, well, they're going to, then they put the gun on this. First of all, any kid could come up and take that gun. No, you don't do that. Sorry, I'm a little passionate about that. You know,
just a smidge.
Just a little bit.
Just a smidge. But no, just make and then of course and fix the CGI stuff. If you've got people running away from the big water, they need to be getting hit with the water, not just the water going splash and they're just still running along. It's like, no, come on, be realistic on this stuff. You know, I understand it's supposed to be an alternate reality, but you know, and I don't know if they needed the Tom Sawyer character. I really don't. I mean, if you're going to do literary characters, why didn't you do Dracula himself instead of something else? Add him in there. You know, if you're going to do these literary characters, let's do some real goodies, you know. So those are things I would fix.
Yeah. See, I agree with that. If anything, I'll change the name, drop the gentleman off this thing. Just call it the League of Extraordinary People. That way, because if you're going to have a lady in there, let's be PC. I agree. Take Quarterman out of the league. He shouldn't be the leader. He should be the one that just follows along. That I got you back if something happens. Because to me, that's all he was good for. I mean, or other than I wouldn't do it this way. But other than that, make Nemo the leader, or even follow the comic, at least with in what it was. Let Mina be there, because put her there, because she found out, somebody's stealing this phosphorus. It was using the science and region between Mina and Jekyll and all and Nemo should have been the main stars. And granted, Sean Connery's a good actor, but
not that good.
Not that good. Not so. Even with that change a few little things up. Make it where it's not where M is not. They actually was there to stop. They knew who M was, and trying to go after him. So that's what I got right now.
So I'll take the approach of I would have liked to have actually scrapped the entire story and gone in a totally different direction. Let me explain. So number one, Chad, like you were saying, I would have liked a more prominent villain, more than M. So like, even if you took like a major literary villain, okay, let's just say that Dracula was the person they were going after, major villain. Okay, you got to think about it that way. Another thing I would have done is I would have wondered what the director's original vision for this movie would have been, because I know that with Sean Connery being in there, there were some disagreements and different things like that. But like you said, Dave, the director was very meticulous, very detailed. I kind of would have liked to have seen his vision, and I wonder what it would have been like if you did not have him in there. You still had the same characters, but you had no names in all of the characters, so everybody was equal as far as actors go. And you did more as far as storyline with their characters, maybe more with action with their characters. You kind of follow what the comic is as far as who's the leader, blah, blah, blah. See what it would have looked like then. It may have worked out better versus just having this one big name actor who you kind of got to cater to. Now you have everybody on the same playing field, and you can kind of create the storyline on that and actually do more with the characters. I don't know. That was kind of rolling in my head a little bit. I would have liked to have seen the director's vision for it with that kind of level playing field.
Kind of like I know this is before you were on here. Kind of like when we did Starship Troopers. No one there was a big actor, but everyone in there played a vital part.
Exactly.
And it just made sense. So
exactly.
Yeah. Sorry, John. Go ahead.
No, you're fine. I think my summary comes down to Eminem, and that's we needed more variety to have some more motivation behind needing the league. I think almost a sense you could almost come back to the time travel idea, or maybe have a future version of himself, understand what he did was wrong, and he's trying to stop it. So he creates the league as a check against himself. Maybe just, I don't know. He just needed an actual motivation to need the league, which I do think opens up a commentary in the sense of, I think there is kind of an intrinsic motivation just from the sense that every villain needs a hero to go against, or else the challenge just isn't fun. Like there's no reason, especially when it comes to this idea of, especially if this is based off of a comic, a lot of our comic book heroes, they're no fun if they don't have a good villain. And so in that same sense, our villains aren't going to have any fun if they don't have a good hero to go up against. And so it's almost like he's creating his own heroes to fight, which is kind of maniac-ish. But I mean, a lot of our best characters in comics, they don't feel as good as villains if they don't have good heroes, and they don't feel as good as heroes if they don't have good villains. Kind of two sides of the same coin, if you will, in terms of storytelling. The problem is in trying to get the villain to create the heroes that were fighting him, it just fell short and leaving him without much motivation to have done it in the first place, because he was steady on a roll just to handle that himself. So I think you give him a better motivation, or a better motivation for the lead to get started, and I think you have a much better film overall.
Yeah, I agree. Anybody else have anything? Nope. All right.
Crypto Enterprise.
Please contact us. Tell us if you agree with our ratings, or how you would fix or improve this movie, or if there's a movie that you would like us to review. The easiest way to do that is if you're watching us on YouTube is to comment below. For those of you that are audio-only listeners, you can reach us on either X or Facebook at TheseSciFiGuys. Or you could email us, TheseSciFiGuys@gmail.com. I'm sorry, Chad.
You're good.
You had just started. I was like, anybody got anything? No. And then I was like, click. And then you're like, ah.
No, but what I read also with this movie, it became a very cult following to it. So there's people that love this movie that was it's very good. So who knows? That's all I was going to say. It had a big cult following on this movie.
Well, I mean, I can understand. I mean,
yeah. That's all I was going to say. And it's not trying to get into something.
I mean, I don't mind wrapping up this part. I mean, I like Nemo. I've already said that earlier. I really, really, really like though Jekyll and Hyde.
Yeah,
I think they could have done so much more with him. The other characters were so. They're fine, but I really liked, especially the way that Jekyll and Hyde looked. Especially when he was looking in mirrors, or he saw his reflection, and then they were able to have a conversation. That's why I think I should have said that fixing.
Yeah.
I think they could have done more with that.
Yeah.
The struggle, the internal struggle that he had,
to be good.
And at the same time, Mr. Hyde is like, no, I don't care. Almost like Hulk and Bruce Banner. It's like
Yep.
Hulk smash. And Bruce Banner's like, no, hey, we need to take care of this. So. Yeah, everyone. Well, we're going to do something different this week. We are Shane and John. Of course, you guys know that have been watching this or listening to us for a while. They're relatively newbies when it comes to science fiction movies and TV shows and all that. They're Padawans. I mean, let's be honest. And so we are doing. they're making all kinds of goofy faces and stuff on here. We're gonna have them do some TV shows. So we're calling it Behind the Big Screen. These are gonna be in addition to our normal episodes. So this week we're actually gonna go ahead and I'm gonna basically interview these guys. They're going to watch. Let me pull up here on the screen. Star Trek: The Next Generation. They're going to watch the pilot episode, Encounter at Farpoint. And then I got some questions I'm going to ask them, and then let them basically talk about it, what they thought about it, where they thought where they think the series might go, et cetera, with things like that. So that is going to be coming up next, and that's actually going to be in the middle. So usually you guys see this if you're on YouTube. Usually it's about on a Tuesday is when this gets released. Sometimes it's Monday night. We still will do those. That movie will be Wall-E. Wall-E. Yeah. So we're gonna. So again, we're in the middle of the summer. This is kind of our summer program. We're not doing this every week because hey, we have lives. And we don't get paid for this, and we have people that want to have vacation and fun stuff, So anyway, so that's just what's coming up next. And just remember, no matter where you go, there you are. Until next time.
Crash and burn.
The Sci-Fi Guys is an independent broadcast by the Sci-Fi Guy Productions. For more information on upcoming episodes, follow us on Twitter or X at TheseSciFiGuys. For our audio-only listeners, you can find us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Like, subscribe, or leave a comment to let us know how we're doing.